Thanks for making coffee, honey.
Oh.
He was like, oh my god, I try to ask me what my thing is.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do what you want. Drinking coffee is another one. So I'm gonna drink it till 3 p.m. instead of till 11 a.m. That's doubling down for me.
Today is a very special day for our family. I don't want to oversell it, but it's a special day. And it's really difficult to talk about. 7 years ago today, our family got out of debt. But for you to understand this, I think you need to understand some of the backstory. So we were fortunate enough to have help with school, which is kind of actually a weird thing now because although Cammie did get a nursing degree, she never actually used it. So we did pay for a lot of it, and we consider it one of the worst investments our entire life, was her nursing degree. But you can't go back in time. But we got her school degree with no debt. And then it came time to find our first house to buy. That's what we thought everyone needed to do. And we were getting kicked out of the married student housing from the college campus that we had lived. And the friends we had were buying homes. So we thought, you know, this is just where we're at, where it's time to buy a home. So we bought a townhome. I think it was $170,000, give or take. This is in the Seattle area. And to do that, we had to get a mortgage. Now, my understanding of what a mortgage was like nothing. I knew that we were just like trying to like get our numbers together so that we could like qualify, and then we were told we qualified, and I was like super excited. And then we showed up to this place and signed like a stack of papers like that thick. And then we had a house. And I like didn't even care what the paper said. They're just like sign here, initial here, sign here, initial here. And it's like, sweet, we own a house. And we were like so excited. We like painted the walls crazy colors. And we were just excited that we owned this thing and we could use it for whatever we wanted. That house lasted for about 3 years. And then I started making more money. And our family was expanding, and we have not just 2 kids, we have 3 kids, and then we had 4 kids, and it felt like it was time to upgrade again. So now we're buying a house that was $450,000, which might sound like it's a lot to some of you, but in Kirkland, Washington, this was like a pretty basic house. It was 3 bedrooms, it was 2 stories, it had an okay sized yard, it had been newly remodeled, but it wasn't anything super fancy. And we had to do a mortgage or a loan for this. And I'm skipping some details that are like, we refinanced the first house, and I was super excited about that because it seemed like I had just made a bunch of money because housing values had gone up. But I guess the reason why I'm sharing this is by the time I got to take in a loan for $450,000, that was also like very normal at the time. Around this time I started reading books about real estate investment, and they all kind of use this phrase, which was like OPM, or other people's money, or leverage, which all talked about the benefits of taking loans and how much money you could make and how stable the real estate market was and all these things. And that was like kind of our life. We weren't like huge spenders, but the fact of the matter remains, we were living off of money that was borrowed and not ours. And I think I had some epiphany because over this time period, my income level and net worth was gradually going up and up and up, like astronomically. I never planned on making more than $20,000 or $40,000 a year because we were planning on being broke and living in Africa at the time. And I remember the first time I made like $60,000 a year. And then there were years where I cleared 6 figures and I made $100,000 a year. And then I started a company with some friends, and I'm now making more than $1 million a year. But here's the thing that's really fascinating to me, at least, was as my income went up, the amount of debt that I had also went up. And this wasn't unusual because a lot of the business guys that I started hanging out with that were worth way more than I was, I would talk to them, and once they had made like $1 million, they were buying $10 million homes. And the people that were making $5 million were buying $50 or $100 million homes. Basically, like, everyone was leveraged and borrowing money no matter how much money they were making. And this is really surprising to me because I guess always thought once you reach a certain point, then you don't need debt anymore, or then debt becomes like I don't know, it's like you don't need to borrow, like isn't 10 million enough, or 100 million, but then that wasn't true about 100,000 or $60,000. And our life was really crazy in this time period. There was some cool aspects about having a lot of money, but for a lot of you that didn't know our life back then, it also looked radically different. Like, I was working more than I had ever worked in my life. I had a personal assistant that I was using to help shop for jeans for me, and that was playing tennis with my kids because I didn't have time to do that. We were eating out all the time just because we could afford to. We were taking expensive vacations. I was also like completely worn out, like emotionally, time-wise. I feel like even like character-wise. And this is something I learned in that time, is that although you can leverage your money, you can't leverage your time, and you can't leverage your character. I just started to not feel like spending more than I was making was really helping me. So we made this really big decision, and it was to pay off our mortgage, all of them. It was a big decision because everyone was saying it was kind of stupid, that like, oh, why would you do that when you could buy a bigger house or invest more out there into the world to be making more money? But we had enough money. But people were still like, even people that had enough were still, there was this mindset of spending more than you make. So it was 7 years ago that we paid off that mortgage, and it felt kind of stupid. It just felt like something we needed to do. All I can say was, I think it was the single best financial decision that we've made in our entire life or marriage. Not everything changed overnight, like I don't want to sell it as that type of story, but I noticed that just something shifted. What was our top priority, which was paying off our mortgage, even if we had the money, it just was always in the back of our mind. Once that was gone, I think we started to feel like we had breathing space. We started to feel more freedom, and we started to feel like something else could take that spot that used to be paying off debt. And we didn't even know what those things were. Like, this is before the vlog, this is before a lot of things, but our life shifted where we started to prioritize family more, we started to prioritize creative ideas, and it just felt like we could kind of like do whatever we wanted to. And the biggest thing was, I didn't realize how much of my life was spent just feeling like I was catching up. Because once you take a loan for like $500,000, then you're always, in the back of my mind, I was always just like trying to pay it back, basically. And you know, it's a 15-year or a 30-year note, which means that like for 15 years, I'm just like catching up to some purchase I made 15 years ago or 30 years ago when I was a kid. I think this like whole decision to pay off the debt, it kind of just reversed that mindset. And we said, instead of catching up, we're gonna operate off one rule for now. And that rule was to not spend money we don't have. Like, very simply, like, that was it. And it's like, the flip side of that is spend everything that you have however you want, but don't spend money you don't have. A lot of people ask us about our finances now, and I think us not having debt is actually the biggest single factor that contributes to how we live and the freedom we have and the ability to start this YouTube channel and the ability to hike the Appalachian Trail. I think a lot of people are obsessed with income and just trying to get that number higher. Well, in my experience, that doesn't always work, because the higher your income is, the higher your expenses are, and you still are kind of on the same treadmill or rat race or trying to catch up mentality. And hanging out with millionaires, like, they didn't have more time. And what I really want was more headspace, more freedom, and more time to do the things that I want to do. So I get it, you guys. I feel like there's plenty of videos out there and lifestyles promoting debt. Most of what you see on YouTube and just in people's lives around revolves around some type of consumer, student loan, or housing debt. And I'm not against that. Like, I'm not trying to make this black or white thing, but I'm not gonna sit here and promote the benefits of that, because you can see the benefits of that. Owning a home is nice, it's great. We felt that buzz in the beginning. But what I do want to draw awareness to is there are some benefits of being debt-free, or another way of putting it is, because if you have debt, you might be thinking, oh, this sucks, like what can I do about it? I have 70 grand in student loan debt. Well, from this point forward, what I believe is that 95% of people could be debt-free from this point forward if they're willing to change their current lifestyle. Now, what's not, you know, an option is to be debt-free and have your current lifestyle. So a lot of people are like, well, I have to have a house, right? It's like, actually, you don't have to have it. It's so hard to talk about this because I think people put it in this category of like necessity, and therefore it creates a sense of disempowerment where they feel like, you know, I've got to have debt. I don't think that's true. I think it is a choice, and I'm fine with people making the choice to have debt and to have nice things now. I just hope that they understand that in the long run, that's gonna mean that they have less nice things and possibly less time with the people that matter to them. I'm really passionate about this topic because I do want freedom for people, and I feel like as an American people, we've all been sold a lie, basically, from students to credit cards to houses, that it's safer and it's better to basically buy things that we, at the end of the day, we can't afford. And if you're even just like open to this idea, one challenge I would toss out, at least for you to consider, is to immediately stop spending more than you're making. And I don't know what that means to you. I get it. There are a few like times when like medical bills and things like that, you know, put people in debt, and I'm sure there's a whole area that's unavoidable, or if debt's passed down from generations. I'm not talking to those people, you guys. I'm talking to those of you out there who were just told that debt's like an okay baseline, and that spending more than you make is fine, or even the best thing. And while I do think it's fine, we've experienced so much benefit from just sticking to that one simple rule that I can't help but talk about it, even though I know it's gonna look weird. Okay, I didn't wanna make this video. We celebrated 7 years ago today paying off our mortgage by going to Dairy Queen and letting the kids have their own Blizzard. So we're gonna do that this week, I think, hopefully. We can't do it tonight because it's date night, but that's how we've celebrated every year. And it's just kind of a fun reminder to us. So hopefully this is helpful to you guys. I don't know, start a discussion in the comments or blast me to hell, whatever floats your boat. See you guys next time. I was gonna say this. I'm writing a book on this topic because I'm so passionate about this, about the mindsets that led to debt and what's changed. So I'm hoping to release it by my 40th birthday in July. We'll see, but if you're interested in more, it's coming.